Hi everyone. In this set of lectures, we're going to have a look at how to reach an audience. We're going to have a look at how to deliver a message to users using some sort of media. We're going to look at Facebook, and then we're going to look at the type of content that people find valuable. So we've discussed a little bit already about what is digital marketing and what is it not. Personally, don't like the distinction between traditional and digital marketing. It is all just marketing at the end of the day. We tend to get a little bit overwhelmed between the differences between digital and traditional and focus on digital media tools such as Facebook and Instagram, and we tend to forget a little bit that the foundation principles of marketing still exist. All we're doing is trying to get a message to a consumer that our product or our service can remove a pain for them. So essentially we're just saying that we have a solution to the problem that you're having, and we're going to try and reach them on some medium. And we can do that by generating and creating some content. Now, I want to take you back in time to 1984, and I'm going to just tell you a little bit about myself when I was in 1984 at 4 years of age. So, if I was to just ask you now and just take some time, what are those products that are on the screen at the moment? Now, you're probably going to tell me that those are transformers, and you're almost correct, but you're not correct. They are, in fact, a Japanese toy line called Diaclone, and all they are robots that will actually transform into cars, trucks, planes, guns, whatever. They don't actually have any storyline. All they are is just individual toys that transform. So the reason that you probably thought they were Transformers is that Hasbro actually bought the Japanese toy line back in 1984, and then they realized that they had to sell these toys to children. So they tried to come up with a way of how they could actually sell those toys. So what they did was they repackaged them as Transformers, and they decided to add a little bit of a story behind the product. So what they did was they made all of the toys, all of the cars, all of the trucks, the good guys, and they made all of the planes and all of the guns the bad guys. And that's the way this this fight between good and evil was going to be. So in order to make the target audience, which was me at age 4 and many like me, aware that these toys were available, they had to develop some content to do that. So what they did was they created a cartoon series, and this cartoon series would go out every Saturday morning, and I would sit in awe looking at these robots flashing across the screen. And obviously then my next move was to pester my parents and get them to purchase these toys for me. And they did that. We did that, myself and my younger brother. We got these Transformer toys for all the years that they were available: 84, 85, 86 and into 87. They also created, to go along with that cartoon series, they also had a comic series as well. And, if you were watching the cartoons, you were obviously wanting to get these comics as well. And I did. I got those comics when I was a child. And in order to recreate what was happening in the comics, I obviously needed those toys. And again, I would go to my parents and ask, could I get the toys that were in the comics? So Hasbro bought a toy line, made me aware that I had a problem. The problem was I didn't have these toys, and that they had the solution, that they were able to supply these toys so that I could recreate the stories that I was watching on the TV and reading in the comics. Now, you might think that Transformers are a bit 1984 and that they've had their day, but actually Hasbro then realized that any of the children from the 80s are now in their 30s and probably have their own children too. So they decided that they could, or they realized that they could sell those toys again. So what they did was they created live action movies. So we had those Transformers movies, more recently the Bumblebee movie, and that would kind of elicit nostalgia with anybody who was a child in the 80s that now has children and are probably going to go and bring their kids to see these movies like we used to watch them, and then also get the children interested in those toys so that Hasbro can sell more of that product. And the thing is, they did all of this before digital was ever around. If you think about it, digital and Facebook, it's really only around since about 2006. And we tend to associate content marketing with digital, but content marketing has always been there. Again, as I said, it's just about trying to reach your audience with a message that you have a solution to the problem that they're having. Okay, today with digital technologies, it's a much quicker delivery of that message, and it's a much more targeted delivery of that message. But content marketing is nothing new. But I thought what we'd do is we'd have a look at Facebook, which is probably the go-to social media platform that we will use and most businesses will use to advertise. And I'll show you some of the statistics on Facebook and you'll realize why. Facebook Inc. as an overall company is responsible for a whole suite or a whole family of products which we all tend to use when it comes to digital marketing. Facebook, the platform itself, also they own Instagram, they own Messenger, and they also own WhatsApp. And in the future, you're going to see a closer integration between all of the suite of family from Facebook. So they've already announced that they're going to try and integrate WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Instagram together, so that if a user on Instagram wants to message somebody directly on WhatsApp, they'll be able to. Somebody on WhatsApp should be able to send a message to somebody on Facebook Messenger, and so on. Also, we know that Facebook is just a massive advertising platform. We don't pay to use Facebook as users, so obviously if we're not paying to use it, then we must be the product. And over the years, what they've done is they've just created this huge, essentially a database of users that can be advertised to. They know all about all of our interests. Now, when we sign up to a Facebook page, we never actually, tell them that we're interested in, Transformers or gardening or cats or dogs or football or whatever it is that we're interested in. Facebook infers that by the pages that we follow and the posts that we interact with. And so for that reason, it becomes a massive advertising platform. Now, we know that we can create ads on Facebook and we can make them appear on Facebook timelines, but the way a user uses a Facebook timeline, they'll constantly scroll, and there is a chance that they could skip over the ads that you have paid for. Now, we can also, send those ads cross platforms, across the family of Facebook platforms. So that same ad that we can put onto our Facebook timeline, we can have appear in our Instagram stories, and we can also have it appear as a direct message in Facebook Messenger. And it's been seen that the open rates on a Facebook Messenger ad are much higher than on a Facebook timeline. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because people will probably scroll past it on a Facebook timeline. But if you get a message on your phone and you get that little red notification up in the top of your phone, chances are you're going to open that to see what it is. With that though, prices will probably increase, because Facebook will know that the open rates are higher on Facebook Messenger, so they're going to charge you a little bit more to directly target people with those ads. But it's a good opportunity at the moment to advertise directly to Facebook Messenger, and it's probably the current or the next thing that's going to happen with Facebook ads. So Facebook itself has 2.2 billion monthly active users worldwide. So 2.3 billion actually, since I did these notes. I made these notes in November 2018, and I think it's up to 2.3 billion monthly active users now. So that's a massive number of users that are on the Facebook platform every month. Of those monthly active users, 1.4 billion of them are daily active users. So every day there's 1.4 billion Facebook users on the platform. The most common age demographic is 25 to 34, with around 30% in that age bracket. Now, Facebook attracts an older age demographic, and the fastest growing age demographic on Facebook is actually 60 plus. So if your target audience is 25 plus, possibly Facebook is where you're going to target them. Instagram will have a younger audience. Snapchat will have a younger audience again, and emerging social media platforms such as TikTok, for example, will have an even younger audience. It just usually what happens is when the older crowd moves in, the younger crowd move out, and they find a new platform to use. Now, people are always asking me, what's the best time to post on Facebook? And you can never really give a definitive answer. It does really depend. It depends on the industry that you're in. It depends on the number of followers that you have. For example, if you're in the hospitality industry, let's say you own a restaurant, for example, you're going to see much higher engagement rates coming towards the end of the week and into the weekend, because naturally that's when people think about, I'm going out for the weekend or at the weekend and I want to go to a restaurant. Overall, you'll see about 18% higher engagement on Thursdays and Fridays. Also, the times that people post during those days is important, but you'll really only figure out what's the best time to post by doing some experimentation, making some posts at various stages during the day, and having a look at your Facebook Insights for your page to see which are getting engagement and which are not, and then you can in the future decide to not post, obviously, at the times like 4 o'clock in the afternoon when people are working, as opposed to say between 8 and 9 at night when people are starting to scroll on their Facebook timelines. Now, in an Irish context, 1.7 million Irish Facebook users. And if you think about our population is probably around 4 million or so. And if you were kind of to just round that 1.7 up to 2 million, you're looking at half of the population of Ireland being on Facebook. So if you are a business, there is a good chance that your target audience is going to be on Facebook. Of that 1.7 million, about 72%, so nearly 3/4 of them are on daily. So you have a good chance of reaching most of those users, or at least 3/4 of those users every day. 64% of Irish social media account holders have a Facebook profile, and then the next social media platform down from that is Instagram at 28%. So more than double the amount of people are using a Facebook profile than an Instagram profile. So how does the Facebook algorithm work? And actually, what is an algorithm? So an algorithm is just a complex formula that dictates how our posts, or our stories as Facebook would call them, appear in our timeline. It's not a case that if you have 1,000 followers on your Facebook page and you make a post, that all 1,000 of those Facebook followers are going to see your post. It depends on a lot of factors. Initially it was 3 factors that Facebook had in their algorithm, and it's now risen to about 100,000 different factors that determine where your post will show up in the timeline. Now, obviously, Facebook are never ever going to tell us how that algorithm actually works, because if they tell us that, then anybody can create a Facebook and it will affect their bottom line. So they're never going to tell us, but they will give us little hints, and every time Facebook make announcements, you should have a look at what they're saying and try and read between the lines. So every day, Facebook you have as a Facebook user, you have the potential to see over 1,500 stories just on your Facebook. Now, 1,500 stories plus all of the other information that's been thrown at us on a daily basis is a lot of noise. So being able to be found, or being able to get your message, the message that you have a solution to that person's problem across, is becoming extremely difficult. Of those 1,500 stories, every time you open up your Facebook newsfeed or your timeline, you're going to see about 300 of them. So even trying to stand out in 300 different separate pieces of information or messages is going to be difficult for a business. Now, the way the algorithm worked, before 2011, they used an algorithm that was called EdgeRank. And EdgeRank was based on 3 aspects: affinity, weight, and time decay. Affinity was depended on how close your relationship between the user and the content or its source. So if you had a friend and you commented and you liked and you shared their posts often, you're going to see their posts more often. If you had a friend and you liked something from them, 1 in 10 of their posts, you tend to see less of their posts. And if you never interact with a friend or a page, you tend to see less of that again. The weight meant the type of action that was taken on the content. Now, what I mean by that is, if you think about it, the easiest action that you can take on a Facebook post is to just click like. It takes no thought at all. You just click a button or you just tap on the screen and you like something. Now, it becomes a little bit more effort or a little bit more work if you actually take the time to type in a comment, or to click onto a share, or even with the newer type of likes where you have the emotions like the wow or the angry or the sad. You have to make a little bit more effort because you have to hold down the mouse button or hold down on the screen to make that happen. So the type of engagement that you create, a comment is going to have a little bit more weight than just a normal like. Also, time decay was important. How current is the content? We know that when we create something on our websites, for example, that content is always going to be there for somebody to see. Now, actually, when we create piece of content on Facebook, it will still always be there, but in terms of people's timelines, it's going to gradually drop off the end of the timeline and gradually and gracefully disappear. And it depends how much interaction that post gets on the time that it will actually disappear. So while EdgeRank factors are still included, so while the algorithm is still based on EdgeRank, it's now taken into account as many as 100,000 weighting factors. And many of those factors are based on how users behave on Facebook and the actions they take to indicate whether a piece of content is of interest to them or not. So if people are interacting with content, they're going to see more of that type of content in the future. If they're not interacting with a piece of content, they'll tend not to see that content in the future. Now, as I said, they're never going to tell us how this algorithm actually works, but we can get some insights from some of the people that worked with Facebook Timeline. So I just have a video here, a short video by Adam Mosseri, who was head of newsfeed at Facebook, but has since moved on, but stayed within the Facebook family. He's now overall head of Instagram. But back when he was the head of newsfeed, he just put together a small video that just explains how newsfeed works.
People post a lot of things on Facebook. Actually, the average person has thousands of things on any given day that they could read in their newsfeed. My name is Adam, and I look after newsfeed at Facebook. And our mission on newsfeed is to connect people with the stories that matter to them most. And to do this, we use a tool called ranking. Ranking is a set of algorithms that we use to try to assess how interested people are in each and every story that they could see on Facebook. So what is an algorithm? Simply put, it's a formula or a set of steps for solving a particular problem. It's a little abstract. So maybe a real-world example. Let's say I'm waiting for my wife Monica at a restaurant and she's running late. And I have to order her something because she texts me and asks me to do so. At that moment, I have a problem to solve. I have to figure out what to order Monica for lunch. And we can actually break that problem down into steps. The first thing I would do would be to check what's on the menu, because I can't very well order something that's not available at the restaurant. Then, I consider all of the information I have available to try to make a good decision. Things like, does she tend to like fish or does she not like burgers? Is it lunchtime or dinner time right now? What's good at this restaurant? What did she have for lunch yesterday? And then from there, I'd actually make a prediction. I'd essentially estimate the likelihood that she'd be happy with the fish or the chicken soup. And in ranking, we have names for these steps. The first we call inventory. What's on the menu? In newsfeed, the menu is the stories that you have not seen from your friends and from the publishers that you've decided to follow. The second we call signals, the information we have available to make informed decisions. Signals are things like how old a given story is or who posted it. Even little things like how fast your internet connection is right now or what kind of phone you're on. And we rely on signals and, in a large way, feedback from our community to understand what content might be problematic. Maybe it's violent content or spam or clickbait or false news. And we use all of these signals to try to make informed predictions, which is the third step. Predictions are things like how likely are you to comment or share a given story? How likely are you to hide or report a story? And then we take those few dozen predictions and we weight them and roll them up into a relevancy score, a number that represents how interested we think you are in any given story in your inventory. And then we order stories by those scores. We do this for each and every person who uses Facebook, for every story that's in their inventory, every time they come to newsfeed. And because recency is an important signal, Newsfeed is lightly chronological, but not strictly so. And we know we're not perfect and that we make mistakes, which is why we're constantly iterating and trying to get better at connecting people with the stories that matter to them most. And that, in a nutshell, is how Newsfeed works.
So Facebook has some core newsfeed values that they like to follow. The first being that friends and family come first. So they say that their top priority is keeping you connected to the people, places, and things you want to be connected to, starting with the people you are friends with on Facebook. That's why if it's from your friends, it's in your feed, period. You just have to scroll down. There was a time when Facebook timeline was flooded with posts from businesses, from pages, from celebrity, product, and less friends. So they've tried to return to the roots here of friends come first. It says that your feed should inform, so people expect the stories in their feed to be meaningful to them. And we have learned over time that people value stories that they consider informative. So Facebook is going to look at what people are commenting on, what people are engaging with, what people are sharing, and they're going to determine from that is the sort of content that people are interested in, and they're going to show more of that type of content to those people in their news feeds. So it's our job as marketing people to make sure that the content that we're sending to those people is relevant to them. Your feed should entertain. We've also found that people enjoy their feeds as a source of entertainment. And if I could just say blah, 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 blah for the rest of this and just highlight the part where it says live videos. Live videos are entirely important to Facebook. They've invested a lot of money in the live video platform and they want you to use it. So basically reading between the lines here, they're saying if you use live videos, you're going to get a little bit more engagement than if you were to do a standard text-only post. A platform for all ideas, stating that anybody can have a meaningful and engaging discussion on Facebook. We don't favor specific kinds of sources or ideas. Questionable. I'll let you decide whether they do or they don't. Think about a media agency that entirely controls what it is we see in our timelines. Do they offer, do they allow people to see more of what they're interested in and less of what they're not interested in, or more of an ideology that they're interested in and less of an ideology that they're not? I'll let you decide on that one. Authentic communication is also important in the Facebook core newsfeed value. A couple of years ago, we had a lot of spam type posts on Facebook, and you would see those posts. This girl, she hasn't cut her hair in 15 years. You won't believe what happened next. And then you'd click through and you'd realize, actually, do you know what? I don't really care what happened next. This is just clickbait, and you haven't then served a purpose, because you've arrived at a website and you've been served with an ad, and that website is probably after generating some revenue based on the click from you onto the page. So Facebook worked hard to eliminate that and identify spam type comments and remove them from the newsfeed. Also, it's important to know that we do control our experience. I said at the start that even if we have 1,000 followers on our Facebook page, not all 1,000 of those followers will see our posts. But people can actually control what they see on Facebook, and we can do this with our own user profiles. We all have that one friend whose posts we don't tend to agree with all the time, but we don't want to fall out with that person by, deleting them or unfriending them on Facebook. So what we do is we tend to just hide their post. And you can do that with businesses as well. And a good tip for a business is to make one of those posts where it's just a little tip or a little tutorial on how to activate that you see the posts from that business page first. Another nice tip is that the test that some businesses do, you might see it on Facebook, it goes along the lines of we just want to determine how far this post can reach across the world or amongst our followers. So just comment your name to tell us that you've seen this post, and that actually increases the engagement from people who wouldn't have engaged with you previously or for a long time. So if you had a follower who doesn't or hasn't engaged with you in a while, and they see that post, by them commenting on that post, it's telling Facebook that they are now interested in your business again, so they have a better chance of seeing posts from you in the future again. And also, Facebook is constantly changing. I mean, I'm reluctant to even create notes on how to create Facebook pages because they just constantly change the way things work. And there's a big difference, and I'll show you shortly between, pre-2018 Facebook and post-2018. So they are just constantly changing, and this is one of the gripes that I have with Facebook or any of these platforms that are not owned by us. We don't, as I'm always saying, we don't have control over these platforms, and they can do what they want. They can disappear, they can change things, and where does that leave us? So just to look at some of the 2016 improvements, we've spoken about them briefly already. The reduction of clickbait. So they were trying to reduce the distribution of posts with a high bounce rate. A bounce rate is when you click through onto a website and you leave without visiting any other pages on that website. You just bounce back. Now, a bounce rate is not necessarily a bad thing, and we'll talk about that when we're looking at SEO, for example. You might arrive at a page, and all you want is the company's phone number, and you get that phone number and you leave. It's not a negative thing. Facebook, they're trying to identify, or they try to identify phrases used in clickbait, the sort of phrases like "you won't believe what happened next," those sort of phrases. And basically, if you post 50 things a day and 48 of them are clickbait, you're going to see a sort of punishment from Facebook. You're going to just kind of drop out of the timelines. Another improvement in 2016 is that stories from friends became more important again. So the focus wasn't so much on business pages as it was in the past. Facebook Live Video, as stated, is something that they've invested in and something that they want you to use. Facebook has created a platform of 2.3 billion monthly active users. They don't want you to leave that platform. So, by posting up a video with a link out to YouTube, that will cause a user to leave and go to YouTube to watch that video. By introducing things like live video or native videos to Facebook, the viewer will watch those on Facebook and stay on Facebook, and therefore be able to be served ads by Facebook. So use live video if you can, if you want to get most engagement. Reactions as well. In the beginning, it didn't matter if likes, wows, or sads, or angries, or happy emotion likes were clicked on. They all had the same type of weight, but actually it takes a little bit more effort than it does to just click like to access some of the other ones. So they're going to add a little bit of different weighting, or more heavenly weighting to that. Also, articles, posts that elicit emotions in people tend to get more engagement. So angry, things that make people angry force them to comment, or things that make people happy will force them to comment, or at least do one of those happy emotions on the post. And then came January the 12th, 2018. So what happened in January the 12th, 2018? And at this stage, what I'll get you to do is you can just pause this video and you can have a read through this article yourself. Mark Zuckerberg came out and he made this post himself. On the left-hand side of it, the picture is the problem, and on the right-hand side are Facebook's solution to the problem. Now, put your business hat on, put your marketing hat on, and see what effect this is going to have for us as business owners, or at least promoters of businesses. Over on the left here, he's saying that, people were getting kind of fed up of seeing posts from businesses all the time. And I did informal experiments with student classes, and I just asked them to just open up their Facebook and tell me in the first 10 posts that they see, how many were from businesses or pages that they follow, and how many were from their actual friends. And it got to a stage where it was nearly 9 in 10 or 90% of posts were coming from pages that they liked, and only 1 in 10 or 10% of the posts were from their friends. So Facebook is saying that friends are going to come first. Now, the problem here is that we don't pay Facebook to use Facebook. So Facebook doesn't make its money from us. So if Facebook is saying that, friends are going to, basically people who don't pay are going to get priority, how does Facebook make its money? And Facebook is making its money by ad revenue from businesses. So is it shooting itself in the foot here and saying that, we're not going to allow ads, or we're not going to allow businesses to organically post things? But actually what they're saying is, if you want to reach this massive audience that we've created for you, you are going to have to pay. So reading between the lines, or that's my interpretation of it at least, that if you read between the lines on this post here, he's saying that if you want to, if you're a business and you want to reach this audience, the days of getting free posts are over, and you're going to have to pay us to do it. And as a result, we're seeing a massive decrease in the engagement rate, organic engagement rates on Facebook, organic being the ones we don't pay for, and we're seeing the costs of Facebook ads increasing as a result. Now, over on the right hand side here, he lets us into some kind of read between the lines type things, where we can see here that we started making changes in this direction. As we roll out, you'll see less public content, like posts from businesses, brands and media, and the public content you see more will be held in the same standard. It should encourage meaningful interactions between people. He says that there are many tight-knit communities around TV shows and sports teams. So is there an opportunity here for us? Is he saying here that we can actually set up a Facebook group, and we can get a lot of like-minded people, or people who are interested in a topic, and we could use that to sell to them? And if you're a clever business, you could set up a group, and you could get a following in that group and be helpful to them, but also you can sell to them. For example, Smith's Toy Store, they also, as well as selling toys, they also sell baby products, buggies and cots and that sort of thing. They've set up a group for parents of babies and toddlers. Can't think of what the name of the group is now, but basically people who are parents of young kids and toddlers, or babies and toddlers, will join that group, and they'll get hints and tips from Smiths. But every now and then Smiths will actually use that group to sell, and they're very clever in that I've seen where they've run competitions at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, the only people who are going to be awake at 2 o'clock in the morning are parents of young children, and they'll run those competitions, and they'll run them from say 2 until 4 o'clock in the morning, and it will end. And they know that the people who are entering those competitions are their exact target audience, and if you didn't win the competition, at least you then become aware of some of the products that Smith's Toys, or at least Smith's baby care section, are selling. So that's one of the things we can take from this post. Another thing he says, I want to be clear, by making these changes, I expect the time people spend on Facebook and some measures of engagement will go down. But I also expect the time you do spend on Facebook will be more valuable, and if we do the right thing, I believe that would be good for our community and for businesses over the long term. So the overall takeaway from this is that it's going to be friends first, businesses second, but obviously Facebook makes its money from businesses, so if you want to get noticed, you're going to have to pay. So just a question there is, what does this mean for businesses? We've already discussed that, and if you wanted to just take some time yourself and just say, I'm a small business owner and I'm worried about these changes, think about how will you adapt. Just write down some ideas about how, as a business, you might adapt to these changes, and how would you more effectively use Facebook for the promotion of your business and your products or your services. There's also here in the slides a longer video that explains the algorithm changes. Adam Mosseri speaking. I think it's over an hour long. You can look at that in your own time, for a more in-depth discussion on the Facebook changes. So what we're getting from that then is that organic reach on Facebook is dead. Organic again being the free, or at least not paid for. So how do we as a business get heard over that noise? Now, you're probably familiar with the term viral, and viral just means when a piece of content is seen and shared and engaged with by a lot of people, and it kind of spreads like a virus across the world. Example of that recently in the last few days, for example, recording this in March 2019, is the example of the 10-year-old boy who wrote the letter to Adam Joyce, the head of Qantas Airlines. I don't know if you've seen that one. He wrote a letter saying that he was starting his own airline and he was looking for advice, and the CEO of Qantas took the time to type a letter back explaining that he wouldn't normally give information to competitors, but he would in this case, and he invited the child and his family along to the operations center. So that sort of thing is an example of a post that goes viral. Now, when we talk about viral, we don't have to go viral, to a third of the world's population. In fact, every post that we make on social media now has to go viral, because if you think about it, remember, there's 1,500 plus stories potentially that could be loaded into a timeline. Of those 1,500 plus stories, 300 are loaded in every time we open our timeline. So how do we as a business make sure that our post is seen, above the noise? So we got to make sure that the content that we're creating has the potential to go viral. And I don't mean to, it doesn't have to go worldwide. And even if we're a local business, a business in Waterford, somebody in San Francisco doesn't really need to see our posts anyway. But we just need to get it in front of the people who are willing to pay for our product or our service. So what does that mean for our content? We have to come up with a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience, and ultimately to drive a profitable customer action. What I'm saying there is we cannot just make this up as we go along. We have to have a strategy in place. We have to be creating valuable content. We have to be creating relevant content, and it has to be consistent content. And we have to be aiming that at a clearly defined audience in order to make that conversion of getting that user to sign up for an email newsletter, or actually buying the product on our website, whatever it is that we want them to do. But the thing is, we can't just do what so many businesses do actually, is use Facebook, set up a Facebook page, and then just post random stuff at random times and hope to hit random people. So we have to put a little bit of thought behind our Facebook posts. Content marketing then itself is being able to provide valuable and relevant material when a user needs it, so as to form a relationship where you're viewed as the expert with the solution. So you provide a piece of content, a person sees it and determines that you are the go-to person in that industry. Even if they don't need your product right now, they'll think about you in the future, that you're the one who had all of the information or supplies all the information around the solution to the problem that they're having. Now, I'm going to show you a piece of content that I created for a company. The company was an estate agent. They asked me would I come in for a month and have a look at their social media. I did that, and we just made some changes to the type of content that we were creating for that target audience. So here we have an example of an announcement, a government announcement for a low interest rate mortgage scheme. We know that the problem that people have with mortgages in Ireland is that the prices of houses are increasing. There is a necessity to have a 10% deposit for the house. People were struggling to even get this 10% deposit together, and then they were also, when they were going to a bank, they were being told that they didn't qualify for a mortgage. So the government had this scheme, and it was going to be a great piece of information to send out to people, just informing them about this scheme. So if you look over here on the left hand side here, we've got a post by a Waterford-based estate agent and a West Waterford-based estate agent. Now, they're both made on the 22nd of January. This one is at 9:55, so 5 to 10 in the morning, and they just say some good news to aid first-time buyers. Incidentally, look, this estate agent is actually advertising another estate agent in their post, which is probably not a good idea. Now, I'm aware that this post is from the Irish Examiner, and in this case the Irish Times over here, and what you're doing is you're sending anybody that clicks to those, and they're going to gain a benefit of the traffic. But in this case it doesn't matter. So I'm just trying to set up here as an expert in an area. Over here, they're just saying, look, welcome news for those struggling. But look at the time here of this one. This is 5 to 9 at night. Now, this one here has 2 likes and 1 share. And this one over here has 6 likes and 2 shares. And you would think that a piece of information like that would be of interest to people who are following estate agents. Now, if you're in the market to buy a house, you're not just going to follow a single estate agent. You're going to follow them all because you want to see the entire, you want to see everybody's portfolio. So the engagement seems quite low on these, and I'll show you why. Because I heard about this scheme as I was driving into work. I get into work at about 8 o'clock, and I think it was on at around 7:45 or something in the morning, and I had decided what I'd do is I'd go in and I'd set up and schedule a post straight away before I started working for WIT. So here is the post that I made. In contrast, you can see that it went out at 8:45. The reason I chose 8:45 as a time was I reckoned that people would be arriving into work but wouldn't actually be working yet. So they'd start work at 9. So they'd have a period of time where they're either outside sitting in their cars or, waiting to clock in, or they're in the canteen or whatever. So 8:45 is when that went out. I also used here some emojis, and it's been proven that posts that have emojis in them will have a higher engagement rate than those without. And I've made it look like it's really important news. The little red sirens here to say breaking news. Also, instead of just saying some welcome news, I explained a little bit about what that scheme was. Now, the idea here is to set up the estate agent as the expert in their field that knows all about this scheme. Another thing that I did, again, even though it was going to the independent.ie and they're going to get all the benefit of the traffic for this, anybody who's clicking through, there was, again, the DNG pictures here, and I did just download and change the picture to a photograph of the minister involved. Now you can see the reach down here. This is the number of people that had a potential to see this post was 16,508. You can see that our likes are up, 64 likes and 114 comments, 24 shares. We actually got here about 12,000, I think, reach organically. So the lighter orange are the organic reach. And then what happened was Facebook actually offered me a free €10 to boost any of my posts. So I decided, because this one had done so well organically, it had got 12,000 people organically, I then boosted it and got the further 16,500 people. So you can see the dark orange there says that it's a paid boost. Just as a tip, while we're talking about boosting posts, always let your posts have an organic life first and see, do they get engagement organically? Because there's no point in boosting a post that doesn't get organic engagement. Because, why would you think that if you pay for it to be shown to people, that people are going to be interested in it if they weren't interested in it when it was just out there naturally or for free? So leave a post have an organic life first, and then if you do think it's a popular post or it's getting a lot of engagement, then you can go and boost it, and it should get a bit more traction. You can see here that I targeted a very specific audience. The estate agent is working in the kind of South Kilkenny, South Tipperary, North Waterford area. So I highlighted a lot of people on Facebook just in those areas, and made sure as well that I was targeting people of home buying age. So for example, an 18-year-old, there was no point in targeting anybody between 18 and 25 because they're just in general not going to have the finances to purchase a house. So we're very particular about the type of people that we targeted. So you can see, because I broke this news first at 8:45, that's why the engagement on the other pages is the other estate agents is so low, because everybody knew about it already, so they were never going to get engagement on it. Another thing about this is that even though we're setting up here the estate agent as the expert in their field, also down here in these 114 comments, what we were getting was people were just naming other people. So you might have a husband naming his wife, or a girlfriend naming the boyfriend, or whatever in those comments, and you can take from that those people are interested in buying a house. So what they're doing by commenting in there, they're showing me their interest in buying a house, which means then that you should be able to target those people in the future and say, look, we know you're interested in a house of between a certain price range. Here is our portfolio. And actually what we did was the following day, after we allowed people to digest that information and that scheme, we set up a post, and what I did was I created a kind of custom search on Daft, and I did a link to that which showed all of the houses that this estate agent had on their books in the price range that would qualify you for this scheme. And I know that the guys got a lot of viewings on those houses off the back of this one post that we made. So you can see that by posting relevant information to people when they actually need that information can really improve the engagement for those types of posts. Okay. Now, so you got to be creating remarkable content all the time, and you should never really miss an opportunity. Look, around the time of the snow, the heavy snow that we had, 2 years ago or last year, whenever it was, I saw that there was a post where somebody had posted that they had built an igloo, and I know that one of the guys working for the estate agents lived in that area, so I just got him to run down with the for sale sign, stick it into the igloo, and we made like a kind of funny caption on it. Here he is with our latest sale agreed, 1 bed, built-in freezer located within walking distance of a centre, so you can get your Brennan's bread and that sort of thing. And you can see that just with a little comment like that to a captive audience, because we knew most people were stuck inside, we got a reach of about 5,500 people. A lot of people engaging with it that way. A lot of people found it funny, and most importantly, we didn't get any negative feedback or people unliking it. But it just, it helps to just create a little bit of content like that. But just remember that humor is subjective as well. So how do we create content for an audience? Well, the first thing is you want to make sure that you understand that audience, because if you don't understand them, you don't know what they want, and you can't create the content for them. Now, where do you find out about those audiences? You got to find out about them by listening. So there's this whole concept of social media listening, or just online listening, where you can search for anything kind of pertaining to your industry or mentions of your brand name or your business name or your products or your services. So listening allows us to discover where our audience is, generate leads as well by solving problems, identify influencers and advocates, and improve customer care. Discover where our audience is. For example, if I do a search if I'm a carpenter, for example, and I do a search and it comes up with a load of boards.ie forum posts where people are asking, who's the best carpenter in Waterford? Or if you're a solicitor, who's the best solicitor to deal with when buying a house in Waterford? You can actually generate leads by being there on those boards.ie posts and saying, listen, I'm a carpenter and this is the sort of price range I work in, and this is an example of my work. And if you're there and other carpenters are not, chances are you have a better chance of getting that work. You can also identify influencers and advocates. Influencers are big in social media at the moment. Those are and they kind of have a bad name. But you can actually align with influencers who, are more or less in the same area that your products and your services are in, and also improve customer care, because there's nothing worse than finding out that there's a lingering bad comment that's after being made about your business somewhere. You should be able to go on there and have the opportunity to clear up any negative engagements that are happening. Now, the next post here, it's kind of a strange post actually, because it's from the PSNI, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, and it's talking about social media tools, and I kind of wonder actually, is this a post that was made by an agency working on behalf of the PSNI? But anyway, it doesn't matter who it's made by. The thing here is there a marketing opportunity? They're asking a question online. Anyone know that what the Hootsuite translator tool is like on iOS? Is it better than Google Translate, or is it best left alone? Now, is there a marketing opportunity there for anybody? If you think about it, if you are Hootsuite or if you're Google, it doesn't matter who you are, but if you are that company, you can come on and you can answer their question for them, and you can say, look, well, we don't know about the Google Translate, but Hootsuite Translate has this list of features and this is the price, and if you're interested in it, get in contact with me, Joe, and here's my contact details. Now, you would never have known that that question was asked unless you were able to search for terms like Hootsuite translator popping up. Okay, so it's an opportunity there. You need to know, otherwise this person would have just made a decision between one or the other, but you can actually influence that by going on there and saying, look, this is what we do, and because then you show yourself to be the expert, there's a better chance that they're going to go with you for the product. So how do you listen? Well, there's lots of kind of paid social media listening tools out there, and some of them can get quite expensive. They go on this cost per month basis, and some of them can actually work out at a lot of money every year. Now, the most simple type of listening out there is to just set up a free Google Alerts. And if you go to google.com/alerts, you can put in keywords that you want to be alerted for. And Google will send you an email. And you can determine the frequency when you go to Google Alerts. You can determine the frequency of when you get those emails. You can get them as they happen, or you can get them every day, or you can get them every 3 days, or whatever. When I was working with the estate agent, then I was looking for content all the time for the Facebook page. So I would set up a Google Alert to get emails every time property was mentioned, anytime estate agent or real estate or any of house for sale. Now, it does tend to clutter up your email inbox a little bit, so maybe 90% of the stuff is irrelevant to you, but the 10% can be quite helpful. So google.com/alerts, go check it out, see what sort of alerts you can set up, and you can be sent then information as it happens, and then you can, if it's happening, you can make a post about it on your Facebook page. You can also do searches on social media platforms as well. If you've got a hashtag, for example, you can search for that hashtag on Instagram, on Facebook and Instagram, and also you can just do a search for any mentions of your company on Facebook or Instagram. So you might decide, content marketing is not for us. We just make boring products. So, we can't really have a Facebook page because why would people be interested in what we have to sell? Here's a video that I've put up. Now, I'm not going to, we'll run a little bit of the video just so you can see what's involved with it. It's from B&Q, the hardware shop, and it's just a how-to video how to lay laminate flooring.
Hard flooring, either laminate or solid wood, is the perfect choice if you want a durable, attractive surface that will keep its good looks for years to come.
We're going to take you through the process of laying a floor step by step.
To make it easier, we split this up into 5 films. Part 1 is the subfloor preparation, measuring.
Now, you get the idea. The team here at B&Q are going to show us how exactly to lay laminate flooring, and they're also going to include the tools as well that they sell to enable us to lay that laminate flooring, and also the flooring itself. Now, laminate flooring is probably not the most exciting product that you'll ever come across, but the question here is this video content boring or is it interesting? And when I show it to you as a master's students, it's probably going to be more interesting than boring. If I show this to 17, 18-year-old first-year students, they're going to tell me straight away it's boring because, laminate flooring or even owning a house is not even on their radar at the moment. So the reason that we might find it interesting is because we know the cost associated with laying laminate floors in our own homes, and we might try to see, is this something that we could, the pain is that I have to hand over money to a carpenter to do this. So the solution might be that I do it myself. And a video like this can show me how to do it, give me this, at least the perceived skills to be able to do this. And then because it's from B&Q, I also know now that B&Q are selling these flooring products and also the tools that will allow me to lay this floor. So for me, for example, if you're just after moving into a house and you need to lay those floors, this becomes a very interesting video. Interest is subjective. It depends on the understanding of the audience and where they are in their lives. But content marketing is not about catching the audience at a point in, or it is, sorry, about catching the audience at a point in time when they're looking for that valuable content. So like I said, the first years won't be looking for it now, but you may be. But it's still, if a first year sees that, or somebody who's not buying a house sees that video, at least they know that B&Q are the perceived experts in this area of laminate floor. But what about the customers or users that aren't actually looking for a solution right now? There are two things to keep in mind here. The first is that you can in fact create content that's engaging and will get industry outsiders interested in what you have to say. And what's important to realize is that just because people don't need your solution just yet doesn't mean that they never will. So in the next example, you can do this yourself. If you open up a Google search, a google.ie search, and you just do a search for gluten-free recipes. One of the search results that comes back is gluten-free recipes and tips to suit you from SuperValu. Now, SuperValu's core business is the sale of groceries, not gluten-free recipes. They're not recipe makers. But what they've done here is they've created a piece of content for people who are searching for gluten-free recipes. So when you click through onto it, you can get brought here to a list of recipes that are all gluten-free, and you can check that out yourself. You can run through that website yourself and you can see those recipes. And what they do is they will display then a list of all of the ingredients that you can use, and they're letting you know in some cases that some of them are SuperValu branded, so that they stock all of these ingredients. So somebody in SuperValu has taken the opportunity to create content for people who are just looking for a recipe for something, and they've led them down through the sales funnel. They've created an awareness of SuperValu. They've now here created an awareness that SuperValu sells all of these ingredients that are needed to create this whatever it is recipe. But what they've done is actually they've put all that effort in, and they've just fallen at the last hurdle, because the last part of our sales funnel is our conversion, and they've never actually given the person the opportunity to make a conversion here. So the big blue arrow here just is asking, is there a missed opportunity? And I think that there is. There should be a big red button or a big blue button on that page that says buy these products and have them delivered, or at least little add to cart buttons beside each one of those ingredients. And there what you would have then is an entire sales funnel worked through. A person searches for something to a solution to the problem they're having. They need gluten-free recipes, and now they're aware that SuperValu is selling those products, and then finally they should be able to work down through that sales funnel and purchase those products directly. So we just need to understand where in the funnel someone is. So we've spoken a little bit about the funnel already, and this representation of a V or a funnel shape, where we will have more people at the top and less people at the end as we work them down through the various stages. So the top of the funnel there would be about creating awareness. The next is to generate interest in the products or the services. Make a person come to a decision on whether they're going to purchase or use your service. And then the final is the action, where they actually carry out that conversion. And that conversion could be anything from signing up to an email list, or buying a product, or downloading it in an ebook, whatever it is. And at the various stages of that funnel, we have different digital marketing tools that we can use to generate awareness or interest, or get an action in the end. Okay, so that goes through the set of notes there about how do we actually reach a customer. What we're trying to do is essentially just use some form of media. In this case, we use Facebook to deliver a message to an interested customer that you have a solution to the problem that they're having.